I'm curious your relationship with hallucinogenics.
I'm like a purist. Like, I didn't do drugs in college, never done any plant medicines. I, however, can speak to it as best as I can intuitively. And also a ton of my friends have gone throughout the world doing their ayahuasca trips in Peru and down to Mexico to do bogar and like all sorts of the MDMAs to psilocybins and everything in between. So what I would say, without having had direct experience, is I think they're wonderful for the right person if it feels intuitively like a calling. What it does, again, tapping into intuition and listening and garnering information from people who've done it, it shows you something, again, that you didn't see previously. So I think it's in the realm of possibility, right? Which is whether you call it like poetically, I saw the light, or I saw the love, or I felt like I was one with God, these sort of very euphoric experiences, which can then transcend these other narratives that might have been creating constraint or suffering or disease. The one slight disclaimer I would have with all of it, because I have friends who've done it multiple times, and I don't necessarily see, I see some of their behaviors change a little bit. If I saw someone, for example, a human being who was just radiant, you know, in terms of their physiology, they had the most beautiful, passionate, loving relationship with their partner, married or otherwise, if they had a thriving business that was of service and making a difference, if they had full integrity in the way that the words that came out of their mouth really mirrored the action. And I was like, whoa, you just really seem to be this optimized human. What's your secret? And if they told me some sort of psychedelic or plant medicine, I would explore it. But I've yet to have that experience. That's not to say that the people that I know who've had those experiences aren't wonderful friends and good humans, but they're still calling me for counsel or help sometimes, or they have their woes, because they're human, no judgment. So I feel like it's great to get a glimpse of something that the mind or the being had never previously seen. And I think that's what we rely on as humans, like watching sports, for example, like kids who see, whoa, that was unbelievable, as like something that many people say watching sports. It's only unbelievable to your current perspective. Obviously it's believable because it happened, but it's showing where you're confined. And so when we get inspired by things that seem bigger than us, we see something that we could aspire to. And so I think plant medicine do that on the psychological and emotional level that really, really reveals something deeper, it's spiritual. But then if you don't do something about it, it's like you went to a great restaurant, had a great experience. You went to a great movie and got inspired to tears because it was really moving. But then you go back to your own life. So that's the only caveat I would say is awesome for the right people, but take that inspiration, and that's what they call that integration process, right? And really do something about it now.
I feel like that sense of potential is the kind of core of so many things. And I feel like you're talking to sports, art, beauty, nature. I feel like psychedelics do that for some people.
Yeah.
But this sense that we can be so much more than we've been told.
Yeah.
And then connecting that to a path of how to reveal that in ourselves.
And it often needs support, it needs structure, it needs counsel. It maybe need revisiting either a trip or finding somebody who's, you know, walked that path before, right? And so that's why I think mentorship, like, you know, having big brothers or having community, it takes a village to raise a child, right? To have elders, to have respect for people who've perhaps in a business or in a sport or in a relationship have gone through the ups and downs, and maybe you can avoid some of those traps, you know? So I think having those profound epiphanies are beautiful. But I've also seen a lot of people who just go back to have profound epiphanies all the time. And they don't necessarily then do something about it. So again, I'm obviously not speaking from direct experience. My friends are like, dude, imagine with your mind if you did da-da-da-da. And I'm like, yeah, maybe, I don't know. Right now I'm not called. I might try something softer, more natural like psilocybin, microdose, and start to feel what that feels like. I'm not drawn to the ayahuascas or any of the bigger stuff. But that's just been my observation, witnessing, you know, hundreds and thousands of people that I know through communities go through these journeys with really beautiful, meaningful, expansive experiences. Don't deny that. But then if that isn't integrated, it's equivalent to going to like an Ivy League school, although now we know not to go there.
Exactly.
Getting like the exposure to beautiful professors with a lot of wisdom, and then, you know, just going home and getting shit-faced.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that we're working on here at Sohom, actually, we're looking to launch a product, and I think that whether it's psychedelics or like holotropic breathing or whatever it is, see, so many times people are part, and there's a use case for this. Okay, so someone might be part of like a lineage, or learning certain like spiritual tenets, or learning some rules, but like, are they experiencing, even for a brief second? We all experiencing the divine. It permeates through us, right? Yeah. But when you create a container where you can extend that experience, and it doesn't have to be through psychedelics. I think, we just did a camp for the youth that I was talking about, like 9 kids that we did it with, right? And they did holotropic breathing. We had all 9 of them at a young age do this. And this is literally, they're doing like, that's like pranayama for an hour, like in a safe way, lying down on the ground or whatever.
Yeah.
You literally had like 2 of the kids actually have out-of-body experiences. And so that, at that age, when you're 15 years old, you're like, wait a second, the stuff I've been learning in church or in temple and stuff like that is like, holy shit, like this is real. Like I actually saw myself. I think to break our faith or over faith that I am this body, like however a human being can do that, I think it's worth figuring out how to do that, like in this lifetime, and there's so many yogic kriyas, and there's so many ways. Some people that are naturalists, I know when I go to the ocean, our family, my parents grew up on the beach when they were younger, right? So we actually swim out pretty far. Sometimes it could be a little unsafe, so you kind of got to feel it out. We just lay on our back, like above, where the waves are breaking, right?
Yeah.
And it's just so peaceful. You just lay there, and there's something that you feel unified and one with everything. So I think genuine, authentic experience of knowing that I'm not this body. Yeah. I pray that all human beings can have that even momentarily, because it just changes the worldview of just how I see the world and how I interact with it. But by no means, I think there's a million different ways to do it. Music, there's mantra, all kinds of stuff. So.
Yeah, I think, I've done some breath work, and so that's my closest experience of having what you might consider to be out-of-body experience, or something that breaks sort of the default network of the ego. And it was profound. So again, it's not to diminish the profundity of what people go through when they do it.
Right.
It's just the invitation to then do something with it, be responsible. I know for me, I was speaking at a summit in Utah, and I'd never really done breath work. And so I thought, check it out. And you got people wailing and crying, and I could feel the crepitus in my hands happening. And it was powerful. And there was about 80 of us in a room. The facilitator was beautiful, the music was powerful, and the whole context of the experience was perfectly curated. And so we sat down and she said, look, we only got 5 minutes, we can't go around, but who would like to share a little bit of their experience? And so for me, I went first. I said, I've never done this before, and the messaging, the insight, my epiphany was, the words were, and the feeling, the somatic experience was, my only job is to love. So if that comes through breathwork, psilocybin, MDMA, like LSD, I don't have a judgment, but what I noticed for me is, it was so profound that I was like, it's not just like a cute fortune cookie thing.
Right.
It's like, no, my only job is to love. Now, have I fallen short from time to time? Of course, but it's a North Star. It keeps me on track that if my nature is to love, then that's now a purpose, that's a calling. And so whatever people get in their experiences, regardless of the means or the methodology, my invitation is like, if it's that profound, rather than posting it on Instagram, which is fine. but
no, don't post it on Instagram. Just say what it is.
Maybe live it.